Thank you, Dr. Joachim von Braun, for this nice introduction and for inviting me in this panel discussion. I would like to have the disclaimer first that I'm not an expert on climate change. I'm a student of agriculture and rural development in Bangladesh, and I have been following what is happening on climate change and trying to think of its implications for Bangladesh development. So in my presentation, I'll focus on how we see the impact of climate change on Bangladesh agriculture and rural development, and what we see that the international community and the government would need to support the people to cope with climate change. As we continue our discussion on mitigation and others, we don't know when we'll be successful to do that, but things are happening and we need to support people in their effort to cope with what has been happening. So this is the average climate change scenario that we see, that during the last 100 years, the average global surface temperature has increased by about 0.7 degrees Celsius. But it is projected that during this century, it is going to increase by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. Some people say even it might increase to about 6 degrees Celsius. That's the worst case scenario. And as a result of this increase, we see the Himalayan glaciers have been shrinking by an average of 10 to 60 meters annually. Some are retreating by 74 meters a year, and we are told that many of those glaciers might melt entirely by 2035. These are not hard projections, but these are the scenarios that we are told that will happen. And as a result of the increase in temperature, the sea level has been rising at a rate of about 3 millimeter annually, and is projected to rise by 30 centimeter to 48 centimeter by 2050, and by 60 centimeter to 110 centimeter by 2100. The South Asia region, we have already been experiencing that the region has been experiencing significant temporal and spatial variations in rainfall, adversely affecting crop production. The rainfall in the coastal region has been increasing. This reminds me of my own country. Now this month is supposed to be heavily the monsoon season, but it has not rained for the last 15 days. And the rainfall started much earlier, which already sort of adversely affected some of the areas. Cyclones in the Pacific as well as in the Bay of Bengal has become more frequent and intense. So the climate change we already sort of experiencing will increase the frequency and severity of natural disasters in Bangladesh. You know that Bangladesh is a country of natural disasters. We are frequently faced with floods and droughts and occasionally very devastating cyclones. With the rising sea level that I have talked about, that if it increases by 1 meter over the next 70, 80 years or so, the rising sea level will impede drainage of water from the Himalayan terrain southwards. All the rivers that sort of come from Himalayas and flow through Bay of Bengal. So if the sea level rise, the feedback effect can cause penetration of heavier floods further inland, and then the salinity of the river water will move further inlands. The storm surge during cyclone may increase to over 9 meters with heavier risks of loss of human and animal lives and destruction of assets. Those are the major sort of impact that we see in Bangladesh. So I'll try to sort of further go deep into these kind of sort of impacts that we see in Bangladesh. First, the sea level rise will aggravate the growing trend towards landlessness. It's going to sort of affect already the scarcity of land that the country has. You all know that Bangladesh is an extreme land scarce country. We have 150 million people within an area of 44,000 square kilometers. The cultivable land has been declining by about 1% since the early 1980s. Due to sort of population increase, growing habitation and others, but also because of the river bank erosions that is happening in the country. A third of the households, rural households in Bangladesh are landless, and 55% have land of less than 0.2 hectare, which we call in Bangladesh as functionally landless, that this land could not be a significant source of livelihood for the people. The average farm size has declined from 1.47 hectare in 1961, when the first agricultural census was taken, to about 0.89 hectare in 1983, and further to 0.6 hectare in 2005. So although rapid urbanization is happening from rural to urban areas, we see that the number of farmers have been increasing and the farm size has been declining. A 1 meter sea level rise will inundate about 17% of the land area and will make an additional 15 million people landless who might become environmental refugees. Obviously, there is going to be a decline in rice production, not only because of the reduction in land, but also the rise in temperature and others will reduce the average yield levels of rice, and it will accentuate food insecurity and poverty. This is the scenario that our geologists project what would happen to Bangladesh as a result of 1 meter rise. You look at the country will, where is the, this would be a patch of water that will go from West Bengal side through the south, through the northeastern region, and then another sort of sea level will go through this scenario. So the country will be divided with 1 meter sea level rise. That's the medium scenario that the people are project. But if there is 2 meter sea level rise, the country will look like this. Some people say that as a result of increase in water, there might be opportunities for fisheries and others. We see that some fisheries activities have been sort of increasing in Bangladesh in the coast, but the outcome could be uncertain. Although in the coast, a major source of livelihood, fisheries is a major source of livelihood for low-income households. Inundated fields and expansion of estuaries may increase fish habitat. Shrimp farming in brackish water has expanded over the last 30 years or so, from about 1.3 thousand hectare in 1975 to 116,000 hectare in 2004. So that has been a rapidly expanding economic activity in the coastal region. And we know that pond aquaculture is much more profitable than rice farming and is an important source of foreign exchange earning for the country. But we have noted that shrimp farming has caused damage to environment and has caused growing socioeconomic inequality in the region. So this is a very debatable kind of economic development activity in the country. With higher tidal surge, the higher tidal surge may flood fish and shrimp ponds that is already there and might make inland fisheries a more risky venture. And then in the coastal areas, as I told earlier, that we are expecting more frequent and more severe cyclones, and it is going to sort of devastate the coast. We already have very severe sort of experience of cyclones in the country. The coastal zone in Bangladesh covers 19 out of the 64 districts and accounts for 32% of the landmass and 28% of the population of the country. Severe cyclonic storms and tidal surges take heavy tolls on human lives, infrastructure, and livelihoods. The low-income households are often the most affected. The devastation caused by 3 major cyclones after the independence in Bangladesh, near about that, one in 1970, 1991, and 2007, are still vivid in the memory of the present generation. The 1970 cyclone caused death of about 500,000 people, and the 1991 cyclone took a toll of another 130,000 lives. The loss of human lives caused by 2007 cyclone, which is the last sort of heavy ones, was less. There about 4,000 people died, but it affected 9 million people and destroyed crops in about 2.5 million hectare of land. Another cyclone, which happened just 3 weeks ago, Ayla, hit the same areas in May 2009. We never experienced this kind of thing, that the cyclones never sort of hit the same areas within that sort of, with that short a period of time. Huge tidal waves have breached coastal embankments and submerged 450,000 hectares of land with salty water and has displaced nearly 1 million people who are now living on embankments and roadside. These are the usual scenario you see after cyclone. Contamination by debris immediately following the cyclone cause severe health problems. Displaced people seek refuge to urban areas, causing acute sort of health problems because of poor housing and sanitation. We see increased risk of health hazards as a result of cyclonic storms. Lack of pure drinking water is already a health problem in the coast. Tube wells as a source of safe drinking water is rarely used in the region because of salt-affected aquifer. People mostly use pond as a source of drinking water. The ponds get contaminated with fallen twigs and leaves during high winds that happen during the cyclone. Outbreak of diarrhea is a major health risk after every cyclone because people drink contaminated water from ponds, and increased frequency of depression, strong winds, and cyclone is expected to aggravate the problem. We told that because of the melting of the glaciers in the Himalayas, we are expecting heavy drought later during the part of this century. Drought is already a problem in Bangladesh. We often experience drought because of late onset of monsoon and long dry spells, which affect crop production during the rainy season. Their experience of substantial loss of production due to droughts in 1973, 79, 81, and 1984. But losses from drought have been substantially reduced recently due to massive development of groundwater irrigation with shallow tube wells. The country now has about 1.5 million small-scale privately owned shallow tube wells, which are operated to irrigate dry season Boro rice, which has now become the major source of rice production in the country. So the country has already moved from monsoon-dependent monsoon season rice production to dry season irrigated rice production. The tube wells are used for supplementary irrigation during dry spells in the monsoon season. But the melting of glaciers in the Himalayas will increase the intensity and severity of drought in the long run. And then we are expecting reduced recharge for aquifers that will affect the capacity to manage droughts with supplementary irrigation. Floods are already a major problem in Bangladesh, natural disasters. The Ganges and Brahmaputra rivers and their numerous tributaries carry water from the catchment of the Himalayas and flow through Bangladesh to the Bay of Bengal. 1/3 of the country is flooded at a depth of over 30 centimeters during the monsoon season in a normal year. But when the rivers rise at the same time and drainage to the sea is impeded by high tides, the country suffers from devastating floods with inundation of 50 to 70% of the land area. Bangladesh experienced such devastating floods in 1974, 87, 88, 98, 2004, and twice in 2007. These are the shaded areas are the areas which are normally flooded during the year, but we see much more coverage of flood in years when the sea level the sea is at a high level. We also see that the urban areas, particularly Dhaka city, are often flooded. These are the pictures from the flooding of Dhaka city, which now has a population of nearly 13 million. But we have noted that the people have been striving to develop resilience against these natural disasters. That's the Bangladesh experience, is that over time we see that we have known how to sort of manage these disastrous events, how to minimize the losses. With frequent exposure to natural disasters, people have been learning how to cope with them. The government, the non-government organizations, and the civil society have demonstrated greater effectiveness in managing relief and rehabilitation efforts after floods and cyclones. Farmers in the severe flood-affected zones have changed land use and cropping patterns that help minimize losses of crops. An improved system of cyclone warnings and building of cyclone shelters have reduced losses to human lives. The floods and cyclones now cause more damage to infrastructure, such as houses, factories, transport infrastructures, and educational health institutions, than the human lives that we experienced earlier during earlier cyclones. So we see that there are some adaptation strategies that we anticipate that the people will adopt as we expect the sea level to rise. We expect that people would raise homestead by land fillings and go for compact township, take up fisheries and boat transport as a means of livelihood, shift from pond aquaculture to marine and capture fisheries, adopt salt-tolerant and submergence-tolerant rice varieties and tree species if available, and use boats as a means of transport instead of road transport. We see some of these things already happening. But the people who need support from government as well as international agencies on certain sort of development infrastructure that will help adapt to these things that we predict as a result of climate change. We need to identify patches of high land and reserve them for cluster township with compact housing instead of scattered housing that we see in the coastal areas now. Promote public works program in the dry season to raise height of such land for housing purposes. Provide housing loans on easy terms for construction of durable housing on raised pillars. Undertake regular maintenance of polders constructed during the 1960s and 70s. Gradually raise the heights of the dikes and build new dikes in unprotected areas. The other interventions that we could think of is building adequate number of multipurpose cyclone shelters for comprehensive coverage of the entire coastal region. Support R&D institutions to develop and extend saline-tolerant species of crops. Already many international organizations are working on that, but we need to sort of develop, develop our capacity to take those interventions and take it to the farmers. Initiate action research on indigenous knowledge of coping mechanism, alternative livelihood options, and context-specific needs, and explore feasible options of freshwater availability and install facilities within reasonable distance of housing settlements for the drinking water problem, which becomes acute during those times. This is my sort of interventions. I think we need to I understand that all the climate funds and other things that are coming as a result of negotiation, we need to allocate those funds in order to support those development interventions in order to cope with this problem. Thank you.